Sahih al-Bukhari 1731. Narrated Ibn Abbas. When the Prophet came to Mecca, he ordered his companions to perform tawaf round the Kaaba and between Safa and Marwa, to finish their ihram and get their hair shaved off or cut short. Sahih al-Bukhari 1732. Narrated Nafi that Ibn Umar, R.A., performed only one tawaf. He would take an afternoon nap and then return to Mina. That was on the day of Nahr, slaughtering. Sahih al-Bukhari 1733. Narrated Aisha. We performed Hajj with the Prophet, and performed Tawaf al-Afada on the day of Nahr, slaughtering. Safiya got her menses and the Prophets desired from her what a husband desires from his wife. I said to him, O Allah's Messenger, she is having her menses. He said, is she going to detain us? We informed him that she had performed Tawaf al-Afada on the day of Nahr. He said, then you can depart. Sahih al-Bukhari 1734. Narrated Ibn Abbas. The Prophet was asked about the slaughtering, shaving of the head, and the doing of Rami before or after the due times. He said, there is no harm in that. Sahih al-Bukhari 1735. Narrated Ibn Abbas. The Prophet was asked, as regards the ceremonies of Hajj, at Mina on the day of Nahr, and he replied that there was no harm. Then a man said to him, I got my head shaved before slaughtering. He replied, slaughter now, and there is no harm in it. Another man said, I did the Rami of the Jimar after midday. The Prophet replied, there was no harm in it. Sahih al-Bukhari 1736. Narrated Abdullah bin Amr. Allah's Messenger stopped for a while near the Jimar at Mina during his last Hajj, and the people started asking him questions. A man said, ignorantly I got my head shaved before slaughtering. The Prophet replied, slaughter now, and there is no harm in it. Another man said, unknowingly I slaughtered the hadi before doing the Rami. The Prophet said, do Rami now and there is no harm in it. So, on that day, when the Prophet was asked about anything, about the ceremonies of Hajj, done before or after its stated time, his reply was, do it now, and there is no harm. Sahih al-Bukhari 1737. Narrated Abdullah bin Amr bin al-Dashez. I witnessed the Prophet when he was delivering the sermon on the day of Nahr. A man stood up and said, I thought that such and such was to be done before such and such. I got my hair shaved before slaughtering. Another said, I slaughtered the hadi before doing the Rami. So, the people asked about many similar things. The Prophet said, do it now, and there is no harm in all these cases. Whenever the Prophet was asked about anything on that day, he replied, do it now, and there is no harm in it. Sahih al-Bukhari 1738. Narrated Abdullah bin Amr bin al-Dashez. Allah's Messenger stopped while on his she-camel. The sub-narrator then narrated the hadith as above, i.e. 793. Sahih al-Bukhari 1739. Narrated Ikrimah. Ibn Abbas said, Allah's Messenger delivered a sermon on the day of Nahr, and said, O people, tell me, what is the day today? The people replied, it is the forbidden, sacred day. He asked again, what town is this? They replied, it is the forbidden, sacred town. He asked, which month is this? They replied, it is the forbidden, sacred month. He said, no doubt. Your blood, your properties, and your honor are sacred to one another like the sanctity of this day of yours, in this sacred town, Mecca, of yours, in this month of yours. The Prophet repeated his statement again and again. After that he raised his head and said, O Allah, haven't conveyed your message to them. Haven't I conveyed your message to them? Ibn Abbas added, by him in whose hand my soul is, the following was his will, Prophet's will, to his followers it is incumbent upon those who are present to convey this information to those who are absent. Beware, don't renegade, as disbelievers, turn into infidels, after me, striking the necks, cutting the throats, of one another. Sahih al-Bukhari 1740. Narrated Ibn Abbas. I heard the Prophet delivering a sermon at Arafat.